We departed our accommodation at Rest Point around 8:40 a.m. and within 45 minutes well and truly into the countryside. As you can see, the journey from Hobart to Strahan is 304 kilometres, about 4.5 hours with not much in between apart from a lot of winding road. "171 kilometres from our start location is the Upper Derwent Bridge crossing near Lake St Clair. There's only 133 kilometres to go. Beautiful daffodils on the roadside at Derwent River. Horsetail Falls, just a few kilometres outside Queenstown. Queenstown was established around 1892 as a base for the Mount Lyell Mining and Railway Company. Alluvial gold was discovered in 1862, and in 1892 the search for copper began. The surroundings of our accommodation at Strahan were very pretty, and look at all the snowbells. The vessel Harbour Master 2 is a 35-metre aluminium jet-powered passenger ferry owned and operated by World Herirage Cruises departing Strahan on the west coast of Tasmania. Our tour began from the Strahan docks at 9 a.m, covering quite a large distance, travelling first to Hell's Gate, the dangerous entry to Macquarie Harbour, then on to explore Sarah Island, followed by a journey through to the Gordon River Heritage Landing, returning to Strahan around 2:30 p.m. Thank you.
No worries. Now just mind your head on the television.
Travelling aboard Harbour Master 2 today. Harbour Master 2 is an aluminium catamaran. Oh, we've got a few extra revs on it today. I want to get back to the football. Who do you follow? That's for the engineer. When we have an engineer on board. He looks after all the engines. Cannon that gets into the water table in this area, most of it comes...
Skipper is explaining that the majority of water in Macquarie Harbour is a light brown colour due to the tannins that enter the harbour from a grass that grows around the area called button grass.
The harbour is also discoloured. brackish, it's half fresh and half salt. Seals and the occasional whale entering the harbour.
Hell's Gate is the name of the mouth of the Macquarie Harbour. It is a notoriously shallow and dangerous channel entrance to the harbour. The actual channel is between Macquarie Heads on the west and Entrance Island on the east. The main length of the harbour runs southeast of Hell's Gates. There is a wider area of water between Entrance Island and the eastern shore, but it is too shallow to navigate. Braddon Point is the name of the feature on the eastern shore, while the shallow water south of the point is named Fraser Flats, and the channel adjacent to the breakwater is known as Kelly Channel. The name of the channel relates to the original convicts' claim that it was their point of entrance to hell, their hell being the Macquarie Harbour Penal Station on Sarah Island and the outlying surrounds of the harbour. There are two lighthouses at the entrance, one on Entrance Island, the other on Bonnet Island. Tasmania is the engine room of the Australian aquaculture industry. The two biggest players are Huon Aquaculture and Tassal. Salmon farming is the state's single largest industry, but is mired in controversy from an environmental viewpoint. In this section of the harbour, the pen stretches as far as the eye can see, and each pen holds approximately 30,000 fish. Pollution from the effluent and reduction of oxygen levels in the water are just some of the concerns created by the industry. A windy arrival at Sarah Island for our intrepid travellers. The intention of the Macquarie Harbour settlement was clear: unceasing labour, total deprivation of spirits, tobacco and comforts of any kind, sameness of occupation, the dreariness of situation, must, if anything will, reform the vicious characters who are sent to you. The story told on the guided tour is a complex one. Brutal oppression which drove many to despair, violence, murder and cannibalism. Stubborn and subtle resistance involving strikes and mass escapes, a thriving black economy and increasingly skilled industrial activity accompanied by labour negotiation. There is a watershed story that early in 1829 the rate of flogging drops dramatically from 8,004 lashes issued in 1828 to barely 800 in 1829. Solitary confinement in the brick jail is relatively infrequent, although hated by the prisoners. The change in disciplinary policy begins soon after the murder of Constable Rex on Grummet Rock in 1827, and follows hard on the rapid increase in output from the shipyard under David Hoy. What emerges from the story is an example of early labour negotiation, helped by the exploitation of a corrupt authority, a thriving black market, and an unyielding determination by these men to beat the system and, if possible, to escape it.
And one of the military officers was Major Jan, was quite notorious. We'll talk about him later. And in the far cottage, Reverend William Schofield and his wife, Martha.
The basic convict diet was bread, salt meat and potatoes, with doses of lime juice and vinegar added to combat scurvy. Up to 400 loaves of bread were baked in these ovens daily. An unusual ingredient in the bread was vinegar. This was added to ensure the bread went mouldy within 2 days. which made it unsuitable for any convicts planning to use it as provision for escape. For the same reason, hardtack was never provided to the convicts. Sarah's Kitchen, a description by Thomas Lempriere, Commissariat Officer. Kangaroos and wombats are often caught. The flesh of the former is famed for its flavour. The flesh of the wombat is not so generally known, but we can vouch from experience the flesh of a young wombat stuffed and roasted whole in the same manner as a sucking pig makes a most delicious dish. Eels, some of immense size, are abundant. There is a large species of freshwater lobster found in the rivers, sometimes 8 inches in length. The shell is very hard, nearly black in colour. The flavour of the flesh is very strong. Black swans are very plentiful. Indeed, waterfowl of every description abound. The echidna often formed a favourite dish on the tables of the officers, and when properly stuffed with sage and onion and roasted, had all the flavour of a goose. The ruins of the penitentiary building. The most lucrative endeavour on the island was the shipbuilding industry, utilising the valuable hewn pine and free convict labour. A total of 131 ships were built, from small up to a 220-ton brig. Frederick was the last vessel to be constructed in the shipyards on Sarah Island. In 1833, the penal station was being closed down and its convicts transferred to Port Arthur. In the closing months of the year, only about a dozen convicts remained on Sarah Island, completing the construction of the 121-ton brig. 4 of the convicts were former sailors and had been sent to Sarah Island because of their history of previous failed escape attempts. Among them was a Londoner, James Porter, a former whaler who had previously lived in Chile and left a wife and child there before returning to England and then being transported to Australia for the theft of silks. On January 14, 1834, 10 of the convicts led by Porter seized the opportunity to escape by hijacking the Frederick. After overpowering their skeleton guard of jailers, they left them on shore with provisions. The convicts then sailed 10,000 miles across the South Pacific, arriving on February 25 near the mouth of the Bueno River, Chile. They scuttled the Frederick offshore, travelled the remaining miles in the ship's tender, and passed themselves off in Valdivia as survivors of a shipwreck.
The beauty of the river system was flowing in the veins of those piners. It took a little bit for some environmentalists to understand that.
Too early to know what was achieved in today's protests and demonstrations in southwestern Tasmania. As you've heard, there have been over 50 arrests.
Right in front of me. Now there's more police arriving. We believe we have the right to be here because we think it should be a national park. You're under arrest. You're under arrest. You're under arrest.
Environmentalists up to the campsite. They kept them down below, so it looked like the JLM was empty. Publicity right round the world. 6,000 people came to Strahan.
In Tasmania, just where does everybody involved stand on that this morning?
The building of which would irreversibly damage a key part of Australia's and the world's natural and cultural heritage.
My government will honour the promises that we have made in respect to Tasmania.
At the turnaround point for our cruise, we prepared to disembark for a visit to the Heritage Landing Boardwalk. During the approximate 1-hour tour, we witnessed the rainforest in its near-to-natural glory. Included are many of the remaining hewn pines, some of which were either not suitable for removal or too difficult, as you can see from the terrain. One tree that was laying on the ground had been dated at greater than 2,000 years old. If the trees are laying on the ground or underwater, they do not rot, which makes them ideal for shipbuilding. The remaining trees are now protected and cannot be harvested. the return journey, we're also alerted to the beautiful reflections that occur on the still water due to the darkness caused by the tannins. On our return to Strahan, the tranquility is broken by a visit to the Morrison's Hue and Pine sawmill, a proudly owned and operated family business. The family sawmill has been in operation from the site since the early 1940s, when the original sawmill was relocated from the King River, making it rich in pining history. Many years of knowledge, experiences and skills located right in the heart of Strahan, the sawmill itself remains mostly original. Harvesting of the hue and pine is no longer permitted. All the timber being transformed is from salvaged logs largely recovered from underwater.